This is Mary and Mello with the Hometown Legends podcast series. And today we have the 11th overall pick of the 1983 NBA draft. With us today, Derek Harper. Derek, we are so excited to have you here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. We like to break the ice when we start our interviews just by asking one or two questions. And the first
Okay.
question is: we know athletes, we always have a pregame ritual, music, or something that we do prior to tip off. What was your pregame ritual if you had one?
I don't know if you guys are familiar with imagery. It's when you meditate, you think of a light blue color, you meditate and visualize before the game. You visualize what you're going to attempt to do. You visualize the ball going in the bucket, and that's basically how I get myself ready. Is just kind of seeing things before they happen. So it's something that I learned at the University of Illinois when I was in college, and I've taken it throughout my career and anything that I do.
That's so different because a lot of people they say that they normally listen to music or read a book. I haven't heard anybody say that they meditate before. Now,
Yeah.
I want to talk about you growing up. I want to talk about you
Yes.
growing up in Florida and having to transition to the University of Illinois, having to deal with that cold weather and getting adjusted to the college atmosphere. How was that?
It was a culture shock. My big thing is I wanted to play right away, and I wanted to play where the competition was, as far as going to the University of Illinois. And it was an interesting transition, mainly because of the weather. I grew up in Florida and didn't really know a lot about the weather in the Illinois area. So, like I said, when I got there, I had to invest in a new wardrobe because in Florida, it's tank tops and flip flops, right? You go over to Illinois and it snows. They don't even have a spring. It snows from fall to the summertime sometimes in the Chicago, Illinois area. And I just I made the best of it. You know, like I was gonna say, I wanted to play right away, and Illinois gave me the best opportunity to play away right away in the Big Ten, which was the best conference in college basketball. I think when I got there, Magic was just leaving. Isaiah Thomas was at Indiana at the time, and I wanted some of that. So I ended up at Illinois, and basketball wise, the transition was pretty smooth. I got to play about 33, 34 minutes a game, and play against some of the best competition in the country.
And as you said, prior getting to Illinois, you were All American in high school,
Yep,
and while you were at Illinois, you was also an All American playing for the great late Luke
Lou Henson.
Henson,
Yeah, that's my guy.
who also yes sir. How was that experience when you first met Lou Henson when he came to recruit you, and like the confidence that you had in him, knowing that you were making the right decision, selecting Illinois
You
to
know,
play college basketball?
I don't think you ever know if it's the right decision. I think it's a comfort that you get when you sit down. Tony Yates was the guy that did the recruiting for Coach Henson. But when my family and I had the opportunity to sit down with both those guys, there was an ease about Coach Henson. He's a yeller, but it's not personal. And after he yells and screams and take you through the ringer from that standpoint, he puts his arms around you. And that was something that I saw when I took my visits there. Um, but it's just one of those things. Hindsight is 2020, right? So you kind of go with your gut, and that's what I did. I went with my gut. I thought that Illinois would provide me with the proper education and give me the opportunity to do something that I love. And here I am, 16 years in the NBA. It was a blessing. to play that long, but Illinois was certainly the thing that set all of that in place, set the wheels in motion, so to speak.
While at Illinois, I feel like you were, one of the first faceless players that really opened up, Illinois as a program nationally. We already knew
Yeah.
Illinois was reaching into the Chicago area. Um,
Uh-huh.
how did you feel? Lou Henson obviously trusted you, point guard, solid point guard, scorer, defender, and everything. How did you?
Yeah.
How did you lead the team? After Lou Holson instilled the confidence in you that you were that guy.
By example, I think that's the kind of. I mean, I'm a talker when it comes to the sport, but I think the best way to lead is by example, and that's what I tried to do. I came early to practices, stayed late. Um, just work my way through the process. And it is a process, but I've always had confidence that I could get guys' attention by going out and just going that extra mile, doing a little bit more than the next person. I don't feel like I was ever outworked doing my basketball career, whether it's high school, junior high school, college, in the NBA. I prided myself in putting the work in to get the results that I was searching for throughout my basketball career. And that's how people respect you. That's the respect. That's where respect comes from, I guess, is what I'm saying, by going out, setting the right example. So I tried to do those things. Bruce Douglas, Ephraim Winters came in. They were high school All-Americans, and they saw that in me, and we never skipped a beat as a.
Like you said, the Big Ten.
1982
Okay.
to 83, you
Pardon?
had my
You're breaking up somewhat.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. In 1982 to 1983, you led Illinois in scoring with 15.4 points per game. As a point guard, you already said that you had to lead by example, but what exactly did you do to help your teammates get prepared to go out there and battle?
Well, you try to instill confidence in your guys. I think part of being successful in any sport is that you have to believe that you can be. And what gives you the belief is the work that you put in. Basketball games, the actual game itself, should be easy because you have prepared yourself. You've been on that free throw line, knocking down free throw after free throw. You've drilled yourself from a shooting standpoint to the point where it's just second nature. And I think in all sports, it's all about your instincts, and you always playing with your instincts. And that's how I was able to find the success through college and through my basketball life. You think about if you were getting ready to take a test and you hadn't prepared for that test, you're going to be shaky. You're going to be nervous, indecisive, not alert because you hadn't prepared yourself. But once you prepare yourself, it's second nature. You go out there and just get it done. That's in life as well, I think.
For sure, yes, sir. When you got to the Big Ten, obviously, again, you excelled. Was the competition exactly what you thought it was? I mean, how was the
No,
competition when you actually really got out there?
it was better. You think about going to Indiana throughout the year. Think about going to Purdue, Wisconsin, Ohio State. I said Indiana, Michigan State. The competition was fierce. There were so many players that could actually get it done night in and night out. They were consistently good. And again, that's why I chose the Big Ten, because I thought at the time in 80, 82, 83, there was no place I would rather be playing because of the competition. And I mean, Eric Turner was at Michigan.
Terrible.
Just tons of great basketball players. So I wanted to play against the best. And I was challenged every single night because of the competition.
What advice did Lou Henson give you that still that stuck with you for life?
That the cream will come to the top, meaning that if you work and work and work and work, at the end, you're going to be there. You're going to be the last man standing. Like I just said a few minutes ago, you put that work in, man, you're destined to be successful. You know, I talk to kids from time to time, and that's what I tell them. I mean, do you really want to be good? Because if you really want to be good, then your agenda is to work yourself into being the best that you can be. And that's what I did. That's what I always thought, that I was the best, simply because I prepared myself on a regular basis. And yeah, I don't think kids understand. Like, you see guys that can shoot the basketball. You know, the 3-point contest is this weekend, right? So the guy, whoever wins that, trust me, they have put the time in. They have made shooting second nature. You know, Reggie Miller, Steph, all these great shooters, Klay Thompson. I think people think they just pop up and just make shots. Like, oh, wow, look at me. But that's not the case. You have to put the work in, and that way you know you're ready to go out and do what you do as a player.
Yes, sir. And you keep mentioning hard work. And the Big Ten has had this reputation forever as a grind, hard
Yeah,
conference. Coming into the Big Ten, coming to Illinois, you obviously had that work ethic already. Do
yeah,
you really feel your work ethic prior to arriving at Illinois had you prepared for the rigors of the Big Ten?
for sure. For
Yes.
sure. I had zero doubt. I thought leaving high school, I worked so hard in high school. I genuinely felt like I could have come to the NBA. I had that much confidence. And where do you get confidence from? Is just standing in that gym, taking shot after shot, you know, not just shooting the ball, but doing it with a purpose. And when you do things with a purpose, you're going to get results. It's not luck, because I mean, game speed type work is what I'm talking about. You know, a lot of times you see guys warm up and they're just going through the motion, right? More or less. But if you don't work like you're in the game, you're not going to get the results that you want. I did everything game speed. When I got to the league, Rolando Blackman was my backcourt mate. And I mean, we had to make a bunch of shots before we could even leave the gym. So you put it in that perspective, man, and sky's the limit for you.
Miss Mary?
Can you all hear me? I keep getting dropped. I'm sorry.
No, I hear you. You're fine.
Okay. Go ahead, Mello. Mello, can you hear me?
Something has went wrong. I can hear you, Miss Mary. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
So we got.
Okay. Um, so let's move on to the NBA, right? When you were
Yeah.
drafted. Well, before we go there, let's talk about NIL real quick while we're still in the college area. Where NIL is today, and when you played college basketball, how do you feel NIL is now, and how much would it benefit, or how much do you think the kids will still be taken advantage of by corporate America with these NIL deals?
Man, that's an interesting question. Um, I've always felt that college players should have been compensated. And here's my reason why, is that they generate so much revenue, right, for the universities. I don't care. I saw where Prime's son, who was at Jackson State with him, got signed up with one of those companies, and he's benefiting, which he should, because he's the one that's that's laying it out there. He's the one that's sacrificing and making all the different things happen for the university. So why not him? Why not be in position to make a little bread? And I look at it this way: if they got to doing it now, they should have always done it. It should have never been a question. But thank God for the people that kind of paved the way, right, for these younger kids now that are in position to be compensated while they're in college. It's necessary. It's needed for a lot of families. I grew up in the projects. I grew up extremely poor, and certainly would have been able to benefit from those programs.
Being drafted, like Miss Mary said, you was drafted 11th
Yep.
overall in the first round in
Hmm.
1983. When you got to the NBA, how quick did you see that it was it was going to take a complete adjustment? How different the college game was versus the NBA game?
Oh, right away. I mean, you get to the NBA, that's the highest level of basketball that you're going to play. And everybody was good night in and night out. You could not take a game off because one night you have Kevin Johnson from the Suns. The next night it's Terry Porter in Portland, Fat Lever in Denver, Tim Hardaway in Golden State, Eric Sleepy Floyd in Houston. So I was confident. I was almost overconfident, to be honest with you. Dick Motta was my first coach, and he gave me a hard time because I was so confident and cocky, he called it. But I just always believed in myself. I always believed with a fair opportunity that I can compete with anybody in the world. And that's the way I approached it. But it was not a cakewalk. It was not a walk in the park because people were so good. Guys were at the top of their games and always in a prove it mode as a player. So my work was cut out, but I was built for it, is what I'll say.
Your confidence led you to be the 2 times All NBA defensive team in
Mhm.
87 and 90. How did it feel to be honored for that, to be a
I've
part of
always
that?
taken pride in my defense. I never wanted to exchange baskets with guys where you score, I score. So it was huge for me. I always felt like I would make an all defensive team because throughout my college career, I was known as a pretty good defender,
Mhm.
and it just carried over. It just carried over from high school to college, and then at the NBA level as well.
Do you feel that your defense helped you excel even more as a player?
That's a good question. Yes, yes. Uh, you know, they call them two-way players now, right? 3 and D guys, two-way players. I've always said that that's what I was. I was a guy that can defend as well as on the offensive end get buckets as well. So, it you hear that term two-way player. Those are the more valuable guys. If you can play, for example, two positions, right? If you can play the one and the two, you're more valuable. If you play offense and defense, there's more value to your game. Some kind of way you're going to be on the floor if you can do both. And that was my motto. That's what I thought when it came to being stingy defensively.
You know, seeing your career, you were definitely a great defensive player, two-way player, like you like they say now. I want to speak about your conditioning. Because it's
Yeah.
hard to be a scorer. It's hard to run an offense as well as you did. You not only could score, you could create shots for others along with yourself.
Right.
And then on the
Right.
other end, you were a total lockdown on ball defender. And it's rumored
Right.
that you was probably one of the strongest point guards to ever come through the NBA. And at that time, they had hand checking. What
Yes.
made you? What I mean, like, what drove that part of you on that defensive side? Because there was moments I remember where you was just in the zone defensively, like
Yeah.
checking people.
Yeah. I got a kick out of it, man. I got a kick out of defending somebody or keeping Isaiah Thomas in front of me. Um, when I tell you the league was so competitive back then, man, I want it to be different. I always ask myself the question, what will separate me from everybody else? And you're always looking for little things defensively that you can get away with. So to your point about being able to touch guys and pick them up full court and get away with hand checking, I felt like was a huge advantage for me. And I just took advantage of the rules. I tease people all the time. I have my own podcast. I had Rolando Blackman on it yesterday, in fact. And that's what we were talking about. We were talking about defensively how you were able to manhandle guys. And I think the late David Stern got away from that because obviously when you're allowed to hold and push and do your defensive work early against guys in the post, things of that nature, when you're able to do that, it becomes almost a football game, so to speak. Remember the Bad Boys, of course. The stuff that they got away with, there's no way you can get away with it now. You'll foul out, and you'll have flagrant fouls and all of those kind of things. So, you learn the league, you learn the officials, and you learn what you can get away with, and you use it to your advantage. And that's what that was my thought process throughout my career. I think we're stuck again, huh? Tweaked.
As you mentioned, the league was different back then to what it is compared to now. Do you feel that you can play in today's NBA? And besides the physicality, what else has changed from the NBA from when you played in it versus today?
Well, the biggest thing is that 7-foot players play on the perimeter. Dirk Nowitzki, I think, is kind of responsible for that. As a 7-foot player, 6'11" player, he came over from Germany, shooting threes, handling the basketball. That's the biggest change. Is that it's 3-point crazy or 3-point friendly. You have to be able to shoot the basketball now. There's no bigs in the league, pretty much, with the exception of Rudy Gobert, I guess, that don't play on the perimeter. These guys, if you come into the league now and you're 6'11", you better be able to do all things. You better be able to dribble it. You better be able to shoot it. And that's where the league is now, and I think it's going to be there for a long time. So what you have is young kids now. The kid that's Victor, I forget his last name, but he's coming here as a 7'2" guy that can do everything. That can put it on the deck, that can shoot the rock, that can pass the rock, and that's the skill set. That's what the NBA has become, and to my point, will always be for a long time.
You mentioned it's a lot of players coming
Speaking of
from
the
overseas playing all.
international players, oh, go ahead, man.
As you mentioned, there's a lot of players coming from overseas playing all positions of the court. What is something you want to share with those players that are now in high school or even at the college level trying to get prepared to enter into the NBA?
Would you repeat that question, Ms. Mary?
Yes. I was saying that it's now players coming from overseas playing on all positions of the court. As you mentioned, shooting threes. What is something that you would want to share with high schoolers and people that are currently in college trying to get prepared fundamentally for the NBA?
Great question. Just to prepare like you're going to play every position on the floor, prepare like you're going to be a point guard sometimes, prepare like you're going to be a two guard, a small forward. You can't leave any screws unturned when it comes to your skills. You have to work on everything collectively, because when you get to the next level, when you come from overseas or come from high school or college, whatever the case, you're going to be drilled, not just to be a point guard, but to be a complete basketball player. And to me, that's the only way you're going to be able to do it, is to not just throw sky hooks, but shoot threes, pass the basketball, and do it with confidence, man. What practice does for you is simple. It gives you the confidence to go out and do what it is that you want to do as a player.
You speaking about fundamentals, players coming from across seas, international players. You get to witness and watch one of the best players in the NBA right now, international players, with Luka Doncic. You got to see Dirk Nowitzki. Um, what do you see about Luka's game? Because you made a comment that said that Luka is right in the same breath as Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. What is it about Luka's game? And I know it's the fundamentals. What
Yeah,
is it about Luka's games that just translates so well to the NBA that makes them pretty much
yeah.
unstoppable?
Well, I don't know. A lot of people don't realize, but Luka has been playing professional since he was 14 years old. I think the biggest compliment is that I can pay Luka is he thinks he's the best. He plays his best basketball against the best players in the league, against Kawhi when Kobe was around, against LeBron. He plays like he's been here before. And of course, his IQ is high. He understands personnel. He understands when to go, when to slow. Think about this. If you played the game at one speed, you wouldn't be nearly as effective as if you change your speeds. Mark Jackson is a good friend. And one of the things that Mark used to do, wasn't the fastest guy on the floor, but he has so many different speeds, so many different paces that he played with. And Luka's a lot like that. You can't speed him up. You can't slow him down. I mean, he has so many different gears. You know, I use the term a lot doing television, how important it is to have breaks. You know, if you're Kyrie Irving, for example, just watching him up close here recently, one of the things that amazes me about him is he'll get into a full-fledged sprint, and on the dime, the defense goes right by him because he has breaks. So Luka has everything. He's bigger than they try to play him with big guys. They're too slow. He gets around them. The little guys, he takes them to the block and have a block party with guys down there. The guy is just well-rounded. And like I said before, he's really a competitive guy. I don't think when I first saw this guy, I knew he was going to be a dominant player because he understood the game so well and he liked to compete. I mean, you know, if you want to compete, the NBA is where it is. That's where you want to be because you're going to get it every single night. And I can give you stats where Luka has had 40-point triple-doubles against James Harden, against Kawhi Leonard, against Steph Curry, against all of the best. He plays his best. So that's the biggest compliment you can pay someone, I think.
Most definitely. Looking at the landscape in the NBA, we saw that LeBron James just passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and now is the NBA's all-time leading scorer. Did you think that someone would be able to break it once Michael Jordan retired and didn't break it? And how do you feel about LeBron James as a player?
I'll answer your last question about LeBron. I think LeBron James, from an all-around standpoint, may be the best to ever do it. I'm biased to Michael Jordan because I had to compete against Michael. You know, I don't know what I would do against Luka, but Michael's will to win, and not just win, but dominate people, I think will give him a slight edge over LeBron. But LeBron James is fantastic, man. I mean, this guy, people talking about him choking sometimes and not taking the last shots. I don't think they realize this guy has more game-winning shots than anybody in the history of the game. And 1A, 1B is what I'll say, because, I watched LeBron, and there was a time where I wasn't a huge fan because he didn't look to score as much. I think by nature, he's a guy that wants to be unselfish, wants to involve other people, but he was kind of forced. Dwayne Wade gave him the torch. Like, this is your team when they build a super team. And once that happened, you saw the guy take off and just became unstoppable. That size, that strength that he has, and it's not goofy size. You know what I mean? It's not. Some guys are big. We call it BFN, big for nothing. You see what I mean? And LeBron is not one of those guys. And he knows how to use it. He uses his strength and his size with a lot of intelligence.
You,
What was your other question? No, you had another question.
oh, me?
Yeah, you did. I thought you did.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Just as far as the state of the NBA today and going forward.
Oh, man.
And with the players, because there's been a lot of talk about AAU basketball and players not being so fundamentally sound compared
Yeah.
to like Luca, the Joker, and international players. Tony Parker was very fundamental.
Agreed.
How do you feel like AAU basketball made a turn for the worse as far as in preparing players, young
Well,
basketball players?
I wouldn't say for the worse. Certainly different. You said the key word when you talked about fundamentals. That's shoot, pass, dribble, right? Those are the fundamentals of the game. I don't think players master that anymore. I don't think they care about it. I think players, they copy what they see. Young kids, they want to be Steph Curry. They want to be Kyrie Irving. They want to do, everybody wants to do the Sham God. Sham is on our staff. And we talk all the time about exactly what you're talking about, the fundamentals of the game. And if you think about the best players in the league, they are fundamental, but they just have there's a thing called raw talent that fundamentals can't teach you. So a combination of raw talent and fundamentals is what separates the good stuff from the junk. That's what separates Steph Curry. You watch him before games, right? Get himself ready to play. This guy goes through a plethora of things that he's getting ready to do before the game. And this is every day. You don't do it one day or before one game. You do it every single day. I used to tell campers and different people that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to mess around and be great. Being great is boring as heck. It's boring because you are doing the same thing every day. So who has the mental capacity to do the same thing every single day, getting ready? And that's how I tell kids all the time, that's how I made it, is I worked so hard until I had to make it. It was no missing because you put the work in, man. And that's what it's all about. You talk about fundamentals and the AAU part of it. There's some credence to. There's some something to that. But you rather have one or the other. You rather have both, but you need to have at least if you're talking about being an NBA player.
And you speaking about fundamentals, that drive, that will to get better. You had a chance to see and play along with Kobe Bryant, right? The late great Kobe Bryant.
Played a year with Kobe.
Did you? Yes. Would you talk about like his preparation, Kobe, as the man that prepared for the game?
Yeah. I'll give you one little Kobe Bryant story, okay? That'll put it in perspective, hopefully. So before practice, you get taped, right? when I was in LA. So you go in before practice, you get your ankles taped just to protect your ankles, things of that nature. Well, Kobe was such a gym rat that after practice was over and everybody was jumping in their cars, getting ready to leave, Kobe would get retaped and go and work on his individual game. So I had no doubt, and I got to Kobe when he was extremely young. I think he was in his second year. I've never seen a guy work as hard as Kobe Bryant. He was sick with it. He was really. I thought Kobe was mentally disturbed because you get to Philadelphia, you get to a city. I'm sure you've heard the stories. You get to a city. Most of the time, guys drop their luggage off and get ready to go eat or go to a club or go wherever. Not Kobe. He was going to the nearest gym and get up shots. I've done it with him before. And I knew he would be great. I knew he would be one of the all-time greats. And I'm basing it on his work ethic and just the fact that he stayed in the gym. I mean, all the time. He stayed in the gym. I'm just like, don't you have a life, outside of basketball? And he said, no, this is my life. And he made it his life. And, Kobe will go down right in the top 5 players to ever play. If, you can argue that the top 25 players until the cows come home. I mean, you can argue that every single day. It's just a preference. But Kobe's certainly in that group and in that category.
Let's talk about you. Do you see any players in today's game that they remind you of yourself?
The only person that comes to mind is Drew Holiday. I like Drew. He plays both sides of the ball, can get to the rim, just does multiple things to help his team to be successful. And I don't think Milwaukee is the same team without him on the floor. Giannis gets all of the headlines. Middleton, obviously, a big part of Milwaukee's success. But the glue guy is what I consider myself, would be a guy like Drew Holiday.
Yes, sir. I love that comparison. When you said that, I couldn't do anything but smile. Drew is
Yeah, yeah,
definitely the glue guy, and I just looked at the game like when Giannis went
yeah,
out in the past 2 games, how Drew was
yeah,
able to lead. Of course, there
yep.
was scoring, but with his defense, and so many points that led off points from defense.
hmm He
Um,
to your point, he's been playing like an all-star. He made the all-star team, but to me, Drew is an all-star player that may or may not get picked every single year.
and they talk about him being like the most underrated player in the NBA. Do you feel that's true, or at least one of
Yes,
the most underrated
I
players?
think he's one of. I feel like the Flash wins a lot. There's nothing flashy about Drew, but his production is nothing but quality. I felt that way about myself. You know what I mean? I never made an all-star team, but there were years that I felt like I should have, if you understand what I'm saying. And it's hard to pick the best players in the league. I mean, is it Dame? Is it Steph? Is it Kyrie? Who is the best point guard in this league? I mean, you can like who you like, but who knows? Guys are just too good. Jalen Brunson, I mean, has developed into. I saw him here in Dallas for 4 years, and when he was on the market last summer, people were calling me like, "What kind of player is he? Is he going to be this? Is he going?" I'm like, "Jalen will be great in New York," and the kid has been spectacular all year for the Knicks.
Um, let's talk about like what you got going on with yourself right now. I have this saying that's called "when the ball goes flat," and it
Right,
was told to me when I was younger, and I really didn't process it, until I got older.
right.
And when I finally talked to the person that put that in my head when the ball goes flat. It made sense. There's life through sport, but for us through basketball, once the ball went flat. For you, you're calling basketball games now. You have camps and just reaching out into the culture as well. Did you ever think that you would be calling NBA games now?
Uh, yes, yes, and no. Yes, because my brothers, I have three brothers, and we literally used to try to play commentary with each other. We literally would sit on the pool and interview each other, call ourselves being Marv Albert and the different people that were calling games. And then while I was playing, I got the opportunity to go and be a guest at TNT. Took my son there with me, and the executive producer, Kevin Calle, is his name for TNT, pulled me off to the side after I was done and simply told me he thought I had the presence to do television. So while I was playing, I kept that in the back of my mind. And I got an opportunity here with Dallas. I wanted to be a GM initially. And I was working in the front office for a little while. And once I realized what it was, I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to do that because it required traveling overseas to China, to different places. And I just wasn't interested at the time in doing that. Mark Cuban called me one day and said, would you be interested in doing TV? And I jumped on the opportunity, and I've been doing television in some capacity for a long time. I don't even know, 20 plus years now, since I retired, actually. So that's been a long time.
Well, you're now
So
a game analyst for Dallas. You played there for 11 years. To be back in that atmosphere and just to see how basketball has transitioned and to be able to cover that, how does it feel to be in Dallas?
I enjoy Dallas. My kids are here. Three of my kids are here. I have a daughter that lives in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn. But it's good. I mean, I simply, I spent a long time here to the point that you just made. There's no state tax. I don't know if you knew that or not. And it's centrally located. You can get a lot of different places from Dallas. It's just a convenient place to live. I mean, there are times where you think you want to be somewhere else, but I'll always have roots in Dallas. It's where I was drafted, knew nothing about it before being drafted here. And I guess the proper thing to say is that it has grown on me. And I know the atmosphere, and I'm very comfortable in the atmosphere.
For me, it feels like the Dallas Mavericks organization have always been a stable franchise, even when you played. And then Mark
Yeah.
Cuban came and took over ownership. Dallas is known as a sports city. When you got to Dallas, how embracing of you were they? Embracing of you were they?
Um, you just said it. The Cowboys run Dallas, and they certainly was. They were on top of the hill when I got here. They had the triplets, Irving, Aikman, and Emmett Smith. They embraced me for sure. The city did, but not like those guys. Those guys, they run it. I mean, so-called America's team. I'm sad to say that I'm not a Cowboy fan. Not really sad, but I'm just not a Cowboy fan for whatever reason. But once you make hay in Dallas, they're always going to embrace you. They're always going to support you. Troy Aikman can't do anything wrong in Dallas. Michael Irvin has been embraced since he caught his first touchdown here. Emmitt Smith, the all-time leading rusher in NFL history, they're golden. They're untouchable when it comes to sports in the Metroplex. So it's a sports town to your point, but the Cowboys have, golly, I don't know exactly how many championships. They won 3 since I've been here. The Mavericks only have one. So everybody's going to lean towards the Cowboys being the king of sports in this area.
Well, you can say that you're golden as well, knowing that you had your jersey retired in 2018.
Yeah, that
So,
was surreal.
congratulations to you for that. I know that was an honor. I mean, just being in
Yeah.
that atmosphere, knowing that they retired your jersey, what type of
Oh,
feeling came over?
it was surreal. I think the one thing most guys will say that when you pick up a basketball for the first time, right? The last thing that crosses your mind is one day my jersey is going to be retired, or one day I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame. You don't think that way. You just don't. You never know how it's going to happen. It's a process. It's a journey that you go on, and you go on that journey because you found something that you love. And I'm no different. I love the game of basketball since I was 2 or 3 years old, and went on the journey, and positive things happen. You have to be fortunate and blessed enough to stay healthy through the journey, and I was able to. And I'm not kidding. It was one of my greatest accomplishments as a basketball player was to see them roll my number 12 up. Nobody else can wear it. If they build a new arena, it's going to go right back in that arena. I have a 9-year-old granddaughter. She looks up there every time she's at the game and talks about it. My kids were at the ceremony. They were really excited about it. It was just one of those moments that you'll never forget.
And like Miss Mary highlighted, you had your jersey retired, and you was also named on the Illinois All-Century team as well. How does that feel?
Good, the same. I only stayed at Illinois for 3 years, and I left and went hardship my last year. So I was surprised that I was on that team, not because I didn't think that I had a good 3 years there. I felt like I did, but there are a lot of people, man, that I think may have deserved it as well, if you understand what I'm saying. So I was excited though. I mean, anytime you accomplish things, I'm not into individual accomplishments, but I'll be the first to say and be honest about it. When they come your way, it does give you pause to and really put you in a position to think about, wow, that's a great accomplishment. So, being an All-American in high school, in college, playing 16 years in the NBA, I'm proud of it. I'm extremely proud of it, and very fortunate to have been able to do so.
We have like 10 minutes left, and this is the Hometown Legends podcast series. Mary Ashley and myself, Melo Williams, and today's special guest is NBA veteran, 16-year player, Mr. Derek Harper. And speaking real quick about the Dallas Mavericks, and it's Black History Month, Mark Cuban has been very progressive as far as giving blacks an opportunity to not only coach, but to also be in his front office. He's one of the
Mm-hmm.
few. The Mavericks is one of the few organizations to have minorities. As Avery Johnson was a coach, you're calling games from. Michael Finley is on the executive staff, along with Nico Harrison. Does this is this who really Mark Cuban is? He's a real progressive guy, and explain the culture of Dallas and why it's a huge, attractive place for free agents.
Well, actually, we haven't gotten a lot of free agents, Melo, to be quite frank with you, and I don't think it has anything to do with the color of the organization that we haven't gotten them. Um, the culture here has gotten better, is what I'll say, and proof is in the pudding when it comes to Cynthia, our CEO, Cynthia Marshall. I'm sorry. Nico, you mentioned Finn is assistant GM under Nico. Avery, you mentioned as a, but the player, they've always had minority players. And I think Mark deserves a lot of credit for looking past. I think about Eric, the coach, the assistant coach in Kansas City that's been offensive coordinator for years and years and years. And over the last couple of weeks, a lot of jobs became available, still can't get hired. I think all it takes is one to like you, one team to like you, one team to draft you. That's all it takes. And I think things for the Mavericks have kind of snowballed into hiring minorities, and they've kind of set a standard for having blacks in the front office. Don't put me in just because I'm black. Put me in because I'm qualified, because I do the work necessary to hold the position. And you can't tell me that they're not more than those people, that they're not more guys that are qualified to hold that position. Heck, there are no black owners in the NFL whatsoever. And all it takes is an opportunity, man. You just one shot. Somebody gives you one chance, and you can parlay it into whatever you want. But, a lot of guys just don't get the opportunities. And as a result, we still yet to have a black owner in the NFL. Michael Jordan, obviously, in the NBA, but it's long overdue. I think if we're honest with ourselves, it's long overdue.
Yes, sir, for sure. We have like 5 minutes left, and we would like to give you this time to just speak your piece, to speak any advice that you would give to any aspiring basketball players, to just people in general in life. Everything doesn't have to be
Yeah,
about basketball, but
no,
advice can be given to anyone for any walks of life. What advice would you give to people out there?
that's interesting. The advice that I would give to anyone with ambition I think the key to all of this is at a young age, start thinking about what it is that you want to do or that you might want to do. I mean, start thinking. My family and I, we're constantly asking Savannah, who is my granddaughter, what she wants to do. I think the sooner you find something that you like and that you might possibly want to do, the sooner you know that, the quicker you can start moving to that. As a kid, I wanted to be an NBA basketball player. I mean, I told my mother all my childhood, I'm going to the NBA, I'm going to the NBA, I'm going to the NBA. And literally believed that. It's not something that I felt like was out of reach, that I couldn't touch it. And when I speak to kids, that's one of the first things that I say is that if I made it, anybody can. If you apply yourself, you can do whatever you want to do. I mean, Kyrie just said you want to, put it in a book. If you don't want, if black kids, and I'm partial to that because I'm black, so put it in a book, we won't read it. And when I think about it, education is freedom, right? It's personal freedom. So if you educate yourself enough, you can find your niche in life. And it doesn't have to be a basketball player, a football player. There are different kinds of success stories in the world, right? Whatever you do, apply yourself, man. Just over prepare yourself in life, and you can do whatever you want to do. President, right? I don't know if that's what he thought about when he was a kid or not, but it came to fruition for him. And I think that there's so many examples out here that people should just pay attention to what it is that they're trying to accomplish with their life.
For sure. Mr. Harper, we would like to thank you for joining us today here on the Hometown Legends podcast. as well. And we would like to say
I
continue
think we
blessings to you
lost
and your
him.
family.
No, I'm here.
But as Mello was saying, we want to thank you. I think we have you. I think we lost Mello, but as he was saying, we want to thank you for joining us on the Hometown Legends podcast series.
You're welcome.
You've been a pleasure to speak with. Okay, Mello, you're back.
No, you said it best. You said it great. Most definitely.
It. Yeah,
Most
thank you
definitely.
so much.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Good luck to you guys, man. Keep going.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
Yeah.
God bless.
God bless. And for everyone, thank you for joining us here on the Hometown Legends podcast series. And that is the conclusion with our special guest today, Mr. Derek Harper.